Hi, and welcome to the webinar about the new and improved sales invoice application. The agenda for today is to first give you an introduction, then I will briefly explain the changes from the previous sales invoice to the new one. And lastly, I will have a live demo in Rambase before we finish up with some questions or comments in the end. My name is Malene, and as mentioned, we will look at the new sales invoice application, which is very similar to the supplier invoice application. Note that this webinar will be recorded for training purposes, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask using the chat functionality or save them to the end of the session. I will also kindly ask you to mute yourself during the presentation and unmute by the end if you have any questions or comments. So, what has been changed is that the sales invoice application has been renewed and now has the same user interface as the other applications, such as sales order and shipping advice. Also, the sales invoice has the possibility for inline editing, which was introduced in the supplier invoice application. And the contract template will not show in the new sales invoice and therefore must use the customer contract management from now on. Lastly, the die, the money symbol in the old version, is now obsolete due to the information will be more accessible from one picture, which I will show you now by entering Rambase. So this is the new sales invoice application. To the left, you have the old sales invoice archive, and it's possible to use predefined filters by clicking on this funnel symbol right here. And we can, for instance, choose sales invoices that is pending registration. And we will get all the sales invoices in status less than 4. Further, you can choose which columns that should be displayed by the cogwheel option, like this. Here you have the old icons and menu option you had in the older version of the application, also known as the F12 menu. Further, you can see the customer information in the gray area here. And in the area to the right, you can enter the interest application by clicking on this arrow here. And in the Dunning field, will show the latest reminder was sent and also a link to the reminder reference and how many reminders have been sent for this specific invoice. Under the Send Document By, you can edit how the invoice should be sent to the customer. Further, you see the payment terms, payment reference, issue date, period, and due date, and so on. And by clicking on these gray arrows here, you expand the field to the maximum. And you will also see, for instance, who's the assignee for this sales invoice. The VAT field holds the VAT information and a link to the VAT document when the invoice is registered. As you can see, there is 5 different tabs here, and we are currently looking at items. If you would like to add items to the invoice, press create new item like this. And as I previously mentioned, it's possible for inline editing by clicking on this pencil symbol right here. And you can edit which GL account the item should be posted to, or you can change the VAT code. Also, if you would like to multi-select items for different actions, such as delete several at once, you click on the status icon like this, and the action will appear on the top here. Here you can add info notification and note to the customer. And before we move on, I would like to look at another sales invoice that is in status 4. The next tab, shipping information, holds the information where the products have been sent, as well as freight details and contact information. The accounting tab shows the invoice posting details and has a link to the CAS document, as many of you might know well here. Adjustments shows the period adjustments plan and how it will be posted after it has been created. The receivable ledger shows the customer transaction document known as CAT and can be entered by clicking on this arrow here. Lastly, the VAT tab shows which VAT code the items have and the basis for the VAT calculation and amount. And before we finish up with this live demo, I will go back to the items tab. We have until now been at the main level, but I will now enter the sales invoice item level by clicking on this arrow here. At the top, you can see where the sales invoice item originates from, and further you have the information about delivery, price, and product. You have the accounting information here, and by clicking on these arrows here, you can add both period and posting adjustment plan to this specific item. Also, you find the items note and landed cost here. And that was all I wanted to show you. So thank you for your time and have a nice day.